So even in this day and age, many years later after this specific iPhone's release, it is still surprising me and it's just surprising in general about how great of a job Apple did with this phone, but also the fact that this iPhone is still being mentioned all of the time whenever there is a new improvement or a massive new change within iPhones. Now, I thought to myself the other day, I was reading an article about the iPhone 14 and about how the repairability of that iPhone has gone up substantially. And the funny thing was, in that article about the iPhone 14, they actually mentioned that this internal change was actually a really big iPhone change in general, and it was probably one of the biggest changes since the iPhone X's release. And I realized that even in this day and age, about 7 or 6 years after the iPhone X's release, this iPhone is still being mentioned all the time as being probably one of the most impactful and one of the biggest changes from one iPhone to the other. So that was one thing that really kind of surprised me there, that this iPhone is still being mentioned and, so highly like that. Because the iPhone XS is not being mentioned like that, the 11, 12, 13, the 14s clearly are not being mentioned like that if they're being mentioned against the iPhone X. But another thing I want to throw in here was beyond than just that, the usage of this iPhone is still so top tier, it's not even funny. Realistically speaking, every single thing, like I've said before, every iPhone I've compared against this thing, every Android I've compared against this thing, even when I compare this thing against its older versions of software that I've had it before, it is insane how much better this iPhone has gotten year after year after year. Now, it's definitely had some years where maybe it wasn't the best performing phone of that year, or it wasn't better than it was before, but I definitely do think when I look back and I look at how good the iPhone X has pretty much aged, it is surprising to me how good of a job Apple did with this phone. And it pretty much always comes down to basically one thing. It's that gesture-based design. That in and of itself, in my opinion, made the iPhones that have home buttons against the iPhones that don't have home buttons just give us a massive differences. And it's hard to understand if you've never even compared them side by side. But if I were to go and compare my iPhone X against my iPhone 8 Plus, you would basically see how big of a difference that gesture design actually, gives you. You don't have to wait for applications to close. You don't have to really wait for anything. It's just there waiting for you. And that was the one thing that really surprised me. Now, the camera and everything like that, it's definitely going to be a slower phone than the iPhone 14. It's definitely going to be not having a good camera. But like I mentioned, if you don't really care about that kind of stuff, it is insane to me how good of a job Apple did with the iPhone X from that standpoint. And I would still say it's still plenty of powerful, still has a pretty decent battery life for being on iOS 16. And if I needed to, I could definitely use this phone every day. I just hope Apple ends up supporting this phone for a little bit longer. Hopefully it does get iOS 17, but I'll definitely tell you the iPhone X still surprises me for sure. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.